From the Hanging with Web Show TV's Bargain Basement Studio in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, it's Pillow Talk with Willow Schuyler.
Will you take me to Winnipeg?
I will, someday. Toronto, Montreal, Quebec, Winnipeg.
Now what's this guy doing up here in Manitoba?
He was holding the map up.
Every salvage mission that's been through this system has disappeared. Even those old pirates out at Winnipeg Drift say it's cursed.
Cursed. Winnipeg's got a great ballet. Have a good time, I swear to God.
Sweet guinea pig of Winnipeg! They've taken over our company!
Balderdash! I never agreed to that!
I should have stayed in Winnipeg, you know? I had a nice gallery, 3 paintings on the wall.
Are you kidding? And you look back. Born home, Quebec. Drafted out of the juniors in the 5th round to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Played for a year with the Leafs, then traded to the Winnipeg Jets, then to Calgary, then to Boston.
Wow. So Winnipeg must get pretty cold up there.
That's it! Back to Winnipeg!
Hello, hello, my friends. It is I, Willow Schuyler. Today, I actually managed to get out of the house a little bit with a friend, and we explored parts of Winnipeg that I've never actually seen before. And now I'm tempted to, because of what we're going to be talking about soon. And, you know, this is not really a discussion to be talking to about around kids. So if you have any youngins, unless, of course, you're okay with them learning about ghostly apparitions and the paranormal. Exploring some aspects of my city and seeing some stuff that I never actually saw before around the Forks. There's a nice little meeting space for our Aboriginals, and a nice sculpture about education, and it's beautiful. I'll get my picture up so that I can share with you guys. But now I'm tempted. I'm tempted to go down through the river walk at night and see if there's some creepy stuff that I can find. How about you, Harley?
I have spent most of the day inside. I am not going to lie. I'm kind of a homebody, but
that's okay.
We're getting a new washer, so you might hear the.
Yeah, you'll see my husband periodically come through the curtain, so it's okay. It's a living space.
You're not getting that vacuum too bad, are you? No.
Nah.
Fantastic. So I hear we are here to talk about the paranormal.
The paranormal, yes. I am excited about this subject. I know we've talked about it several times before, but I enjoy having you on because there's always something new to talk about. Oh
yes.
And John, hey, Mr. Pica himself.
Hello, John.
He's
how you doing?
Good. Hey, did you go on any ghost tours the last little while, or do any ghost tours?
Every weekend.
What was like? What did you see? Anything or feel anything?
Well, so listen, I have been leading haunted tours of downtown Nashville for a little over 2 years. And in that time, I've been touched, pushed, grabbed, and scratched, and not by desperate women looking for a date. And I have seen, stuff. I've seen shadows moving in windows. I came face to face with what I describe as a demon bear.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, in the in Old Fort Nashboro, when we were going through there, and I just realized this was wanting to. Yeah, and it was like 9 feet tall. Maybe 4 or 5 feet wide. It was terrifying.
Wow, the demon bear. That sounds exciting. Yeah, I know. Like every city has their little ghostly haunting stories. Is that common sighting for Nashville?
No, but in the location that we were in, Old Fort Nashboro, people do see shadow people.
Okay.
And yeah, so
Harley, in your city, in your part of Florida, is there a haunting story that everybody tells?
There's several. Not really in my area. I know that down in the Florida Keys there is Robert the Haunted Doll. I have not been to see him personally, but there are countless stories about Robert the Doll. My experience with the paranormal is a little weirder than most people would think. I am a practicing witch, and I am I'm an oracle reader. That came about because a Catholic exorcist told me it might help focus my empathic ability. Okay. So I was taught by a Satanist and guided by another witch. And here I am.
That is... And I know that you have read your cards before, and I'm looking forward to having you read again because it's always an interesting thing to learn. But when you say that you were taught by a Satanist, please elaborate on that.
His name is Richard Lyle Lillard. He is absolutely fantastic. If any of you have seen Ghost Adventures, he is the one on the episode The Pasadena Ritual House. Now, I do believe he's since moved to New York, but a very good friend of mine, fantastic person. When I started kind of, I guess the blanket term would be getting into stuff like this, I figured out I was probably going to be working more with Hecate here. Because when I found this, when just looking for like cool stuff to redecorate my room, it felt like my entire body was tingling.
Oh.
Like you're drunk, but you're not drunk. But it was 11 a.m. Scroll away, different Hecate statue, nothing. Different items, nothing. This specific statue. So I messaged Richard Lyell, who is one of the only people I know who I really thought would be able to answer those questions. And he's like, maybe just experiment a little. Maybe this is something that, something you should look into. And he was right. He was right.
Mm-hmm.
You look like you had something to say, Jonathan.
Yep, just listening.
I know, Johnny, I know you were a skeptic on the whole paranormal stuff before you became a ghost tour.
Well, I wasn't a skeptic. I just didn't know. I was open-minded, but I didn't know what was out there. I was like, maybe there's something, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Kind of where I am with a lot of different things. There are some things that I think are absolute bullshit. Like, I've never understood crystals. It's a rock, guys. However, it's more like the herbal side of things is based in science. So I do believe a lot in that. I believe in... I'm sorry, my brain just blanked out there. I believe that there is stuff that is more powerful than us. I just don't know what it is. And I'm willing to admit that I don't know what it is. But for the most part, I'm like, you know what? You do you, honey.
And we got some people in the chat. Hi, Donna.
Oh, GW's here. Hello, Garrett.
Hello, Garrett.
Hello, Carl. Donna, who do you live with? Who's visiting you?
That I'm curious about that too. I often feel like my grandfather likes to come and say hi once in a while, and he does it in a way where it's like it's a joking thing, and he'll knock something down, and it's like something that should not be, I'll walk by it, I'll look at it, and it's like, okay, whatever. And then next moment, it'll just fly off the shelf or off the table. And it's just like, there's no reason for you to be doing that. Why? So yeah, it's, I've had that situation follow me everywhere I go. And I honestly believe that that's my grandfather. Although there was one instance at my work where I'm on the computer and one of our replacement espresso machine things, like the bowl where you put the beans, fell off the counter and fell off the shelf where it was and hit me in the shoulder. And then a few moments later, a box fell just out of the blue. No reason why anything should be falling. And it's like they kept trying, and it's like things just kept falling everywhere I was in the back room. I'm like, that's it, I'm leaving.
When I used to work at a coffee shop, we had one of our girls get not upset, but just very tearful because she saw we had completely out of season 2. It was very weird. I believe it was a little red-breasted robin. It was a little red bird. I don't remember what it was. Get stuck in our back room. Her grandfather had died 2 weeks before, and that was his favorite bird.
Oh, wow.
And she just broke down, saying he's visiting me. And I'm like, I completely believe he did. I do wish he had waited until we were done with Rush, but you know what? Whatever.
So her ancestor likes me to call him George. Interesting. He's called me by name in my husband's voice, and I've seen him a few times. He'll show himself. Dude, that would be awesome that would be really creepy to witness, but it would be cool.
Dowsing rods are not something I've ever tried. My friend Patty absolutely swears by them. But
aren't those the same kind of rods that you use to find water? Or is that two different things?
I think so. But the concept behind them is energy manipulation. Patty would be much more equipped to explain that than I am. But the concept is energy manipulation.
Yeah. Johnny, what is the creepiest thing you've ever caught on camera or any of the stuff that you use for ghost tracking?
Well, so up until just a couple of weeks ago, we started our tours in a building that housed the Benchmark Sports Grill. And it was originally the carriage house that belonged to Andrew Jackson. And his carriage driver and his wife were the first documented murder-suicide in Nashville. But next door, in the apartment next door, there was a little girl named Jenny who had been playing out in the street, and a fire broke out in one of the stables up the road. They flew open the the gates of the stable, the horses run down the road and trample Jenny to death. And, people to this day say they can hear a little girl running up and down the hallway, sounds like a bouncing ball in the kitchen. And, I have an EMF detector, a ghost meter, and I get intelligence response from her. Because people will comment that they feel like they're being touched or having clothing pulled in that area of the building. And so I'll take the EMF detector and I'll go over to that side of the building and I'll ask her, I'll say, Jenny, if you're here tonight, reach out and touch the green light in my palm. It's a palm-sized EMF detector, and there's a green light to indicate that it's on. And when I say that, it'll start going off. And when I say, and I'll say, Jenny, thank you very much. That's enough. It stops. So
Holy crap.
Yeah, so we get intelligent response from that. And then in one of our final destinations, the spirit of Mary, a prostitute that committed suicide in the brothel, she will manifest herself physically. She's knocked things over while we've been there. She's thrown little temper tantrums and rammed into women that she's jealous of because I'm flirting with them a little bit too much. She's growled in because we wear earbuds, or our guests wear earbuds on the tour so that they can hear us through a micro transmitter. And she's been known to growl in women's earbuds. And
wow.
Yeah, I've been pushed at the top of the stairs in the benchmark at least 3 times. I've seen shadows move like they coalesce kind of like a vortex and then moved as a column up the stairs. Just weird stuff. Saw an apparition. I forgot about this. We saw an apparition move across a window from outside. We're standing across the road, and we saw a person move across the window and then come back across. And at first we thought, okay, that's a real person, until I realized the window that they crossed in front of is a window that's up above a stairwell and there's no floor there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah. So stuff
so
like
you,
that.
Yeah, you had one of the people that were on your ghost tour take pictures of a scratch on their arm that just
bite mark.
A bite mark. That's what it was.
Yeah. And she was the one carrying the EMF detector that night, and it had spiked really hard at one location and then pretty much died. But she was carrying it the entire time. And we get to the final destination. I'm talking about Mary and some of the things that Mary does to women she doesn't like. And she says, well, Mary's just a bitch. And she's holding the hand that she's holding the EMF detector in the whole night. She gets back and there's a bite mark on her bicep.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I saw those pictures and I was like, as someone who's like an outside looking in, it's like there's got to be an explanation for that. But for your guys' experience, she didn't feel anything during the tour.
No.
Wow.
Sometimes sometimes you don't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, there was one night, Willow, it was my very first tour. First night out by myself. I'm standing in a corner telling the stories of the venue, and I feel something grab the back of my neck. And I jumped out of that corner. And a little bit later, there was a scratch down my arm. And then when I got home later that night, there was 2 on the other side, 3 scratches down my arm.
Wow.
I do come from Montana, so there are quite a few ghost towns, old mining towns, things like that.
Yeah.
I didn't think to check for any bite marks, scratches, red marks, because this was before the incident with Hecate here. So it wasn't quite on my radar, though I did have an interest in the paranormal and things like that. We went to, I believe it was called Garnet City. It's an old mining town, but it's not one of the living history towns, so it has not been repaired at all. Very run down. The only thing left of the bank is the iron vault that is still standing. Yeah. And I decided I'm going to go look in the vault because, hey, this is kind of cool. It is a little metal box, no door on it, so there's no way you could get locked in. And the minute I step into that vault, you know when your intuition goes off?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have no reason to know why, but I'm just standing there going, if I don't leave here, I'm going to die. Like, just very bad, like someone's going to try to hurt me. So I turned right back and walked out. I'm like, nope. And that was they didn't have police in this town, so it was citizen enforced. There were a lot of shootings that happened in that bank, and there were a lot of people that were killed, either trying to rob that bank or defend that bank.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, yeah, I guess a couple 4 weeks ago, we had a guy on the tour, big former Marine bodyguard, tough guy, and one of our kind of side stops is this alleyway behind a building that is historically haunted, and we've had people take photographs of apparitions and orbs and whatnot. Well, we step into that alleyway and he immediately jumped out back onto the street and went around the corner. And, you know, he's like pacing back and forth on the street and in tears. And I'm like, what? Are you okay? He's like, no, I'm not. And he wouldn't say anything else until about 40 minutes later. We're at our final destination. And he tells us that the minute he stepped into that alleyway, he heard his grandmother's voice in his ear whisper and say, "You're in danger. Get out now." And that had never happened before. And he was a skeptic. And it shook him.
Wow. There's Harley, you do a show on YouTube called Haunted Harlequin. And I love watching your videos.
Do need to update that. I haven't done that in quite some time. I do like to get a little more the history side of things, because a lot of YouTube and paranormal things I've seen are just, oh fuck, this place is haunted.
Yep.
I like to try to go into, okay, what happened that could have possibly caused this haunting.
One of your videos that I absolutely love and would love to touch on is the story of the White Lady.
The White Lady spirits. They're also called wailing women. The most famous instance is the La Llorona. But there are different instances from all over the world. I think the 3 I touched on were La Llorona, which is mostly Mexico and the Mexico-adjacent states, California, and Ireland.
We have several white women apparitions in Nashville, at least 3.
I know there's one, at least one, probably more, but one that I've heard of here in Florida. The one from Ireland is probably my favorite story, because instead of being like a mother who went into a rage and murdered her children, that's the typical story that you hear. I don't remember the names in the story, but I think it was Fort Charles. I could be wrong on that. It was a military fort, 1500s. This woman had just gotten married, and so she was going to the wedding suite with her husband, her new husband. Her father was the commander of this fort. Now, her husband sees a white rose just on the other side of the wall, but he doesn't really trust his ability to get down to it. So he asks the soldier, "Hey, can you go down and get it if I watch a post so you don't get in trouble?" Soldier says yes. He tells his bride, "Hey, just go back to the suite. I'll be there in a bit. We're good." One thing we don't know is why, but this soldier doesn't come back. And the husband falls asleep, standing up at the post, leaning on the gun, because, it's been a while and he's freaking tired. Now, hourly, the commander makes his rounds. In the time, an appropriate punishment for someone caught sleeping was to be shot.
Oh.
So the girl's father shoots who he thinks is a slacking soldier, only to get closer and realize that it is his son-in-law.
Oh.
He then throws himself off the tower, and both bodies are discovered by the bride just before dawn. She, in grief, throws herself off the tower, and you can still see her walking back and forth in her wedding dress.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure that was Fort Charles. That one, it is my favorite, but always take it with a grain of salt, because the Irish are notorious for embellishing and not telling non-Irish
We have a similar story like that here in Winnipeg. One of our hotels have what they call the bride, and I think it's room 202 in one of our older hotels.
Why does 202 sound familiar? I might know this one.
Woman just got married, and there's like a story of either her father didn't approve of the wedding and he killed the bride's husband, and she ended up taking her own life, or the father killed her. And there's like several different stories, and I don't know which one is actually true, but but yeah, it's like either the bride got killed by her own father for not approving of the wedding, and and she's seen to haunt this room, and she's in her wedding dress. And so, it's a lot of people have taken to spending nights in that room in particular. I'm having a brain fart moment as well, so I apologize. I'm trying to remember what hotel.
Carl, strange that these stories sound nearly the same, kind of a fable with a moral. Well, yes and no. The reason these stories sound so similar is because we're talking about a specific kind of spirit. The Wailing Woman, or the White Lady, Lady in White, all the same idea, is a female spirit born out of extreme tragedy and regret. So all of the stories are going to sound extremely similar if you're talking about specifically the White Lady.
And
John, you're muted. Unmute yourself, darling.
One of ours in Nashville, the spirit of Margaret, she appears in white. She was killed by her husband, Jerry, pushed out of a window, and fell to her death on the street below. And now she appears at that window, most frequently at the top of the stairs.
It's the Fort Garry Hotel here in Winnipeg. Yeah, room 202. So yeah, it's the hotel was actually built by I did research on the hotel, and I can't remember the architect, but the architect had actually died in the Titanic. So yeah,
always the classics as well. And you get a lot of it out in LA. There is the Cecil Hotel as well as the Winchester Mystery House.
Yes, I heard about that.
Which are extremely famous.
I watched the movie that was like, what was it, like 5 years old or something? It's about 5 years old anyway. It's not that. It's a fairly recent movie, The Haunting of the Winchester House. Yeah.
Yeah, Helen Mirren is Mrs. Winchester. She's the only reason to watch that movie. It's not a very good movie.
Hi, Deb.
Extremely fascinating, though.
But yeah, going back to Donna's story about the rods, I have found water before them. That's what I thought. Yeah. And so water is one of the common themes as to what causes a lot of the paranormal happenings around different places. But how do you explain the paranormal in places that isn't near any body of water?
Well, water seems to amplify the electromagnetic energy that spirits give off. We have the most encounters on our tours when it's raining, or right after a thunderstorm. So in the rain,
Deb, hello from the UK. Hello, my darling.
So in the rain, we're getting a lot of activity, but outside of a body, I mean, ghosts can exist anywhere. It's just something about the frequency of water that amplifies their presence. I don't know.
The best way I'd try to explain it, especially to people who are skeptics, whose minds won't necessarily be changed, but they will kind of understand what their paranormal enthused friends are talking about. Think of it like the heat in energy exchange.
Mm-hmm.
You can see something as hot because it's glowing, but that could mean a couple other things. If you put water, like a pot of water over it, you can see the water bubbling.
Yeah.
It's the same thing where like you get a weird feeling and you don't know why. The closer you put your hand to fire, the more heat you're going to feel. The closer you get to something that wants to fuck you up, the worse you're going to feel. It's simple energy exchange. However, because we don't really have any further evidence or explanation for it, a lot of people don't believe, which is fine.
Yeah. I'm more of like I believe in this stuff, and believe me, aside from like stuff falling down and hitting me and falling for no reason around me, my experiences with ghostly apparitions and weird things, after my grandfather had passed, before he had died, our thing was when I lived with my grandparents, was we would try to beat each other to the living room in the mornings when we got up, and so I'd see him run from his bedroom into the kitchen, and it's like, damn it, because whoever got to the living room first got to pick the channel, which usually it ended up on the Disney Channel anyway.
Pedro, thank you, my darling.
Yeah, and so anyway, after he had passed away of his heart attack, which I took way too personal, and I blamed myself for many, many years, because he had passed away after we had gone to the Festival de Voyageur, and he was complaining all day that his chest was cold. And we decided me and my sisters, we decided we wanted to go visit our mom. And so he drove us to my mom's place. And he, on his way to come pick us up, he ended up going to a restaurant or a bar, passing out on their floor, and he died on the way to the hospital. And so, yeah, I blamed myself for many years over that. And after, what was it? It was like a couple days after he had died, I saw him run from his bedroom to the kitchen. And so I'm like, okay. So I tried following him into the living room, and the TV was on. And I'm just like, nobody has gone into the living room since after he had died, because it was just an area that we just were creeped out to even touch for the longest time. We ended up, we would hang out in the den, but yeah, it just having that TV on just was really creepy. And so I'm just like, okay. My sister was woken up one day. She had forgot to set the alarm for school, and she told me that he had woke her up to make sure that we got to school on time. So yeah, he was there, and I do believe that he follows me to make sure that I'm okay. He tends to show up a lot when I'm stressed out, to reassure that I'm okay. But it's just like his joking manner of knocking things over doesn't exactly help.
So Willow, I have a question for you.
Sure.
How do you jive your paranormal experiences with your scientific skeptic approach to life?
When I'm watching programs like Ghost Adventures, I look at the history of these places, and my huge thing when I'm watching ghost tracking shows or like Ghost Adventures and stuff is the camera is often facing them, and you don't get to experience like what they're seeing fully, and that kind of drives me nuts. And the music often is too loud and to hear any of the background noise. I want to experience this stuff myself so that I know that, what they're experiencing is true, rather than them saying that this stuff is happening and you don't actually get to see what's happening.
Well, I do like BuzzFeed Unsolved, Supernatural. It isn't, especially when they start, they're not the most experienced, but what they've taken to doing and what they've done for most of the series is they wear a GoPro on their chest.
Yeah. So
they can then, if they see something or something happens, they can pull that footage and show you what they were looking at.
But some of the voice, the EMF stuff and all that, and them trying to get the spirits to talk through the spirit box. Sometimes it seems like they kind of make up the words of what the ghost is saying, and it's like, no, that was not like,
I think with any EMF, because it does get so garbled, that's kind of gonna happen.
Yeah.
And they do kind of address that at one point, at least on BuzzFeed. I don't know about most of the other shows. I've only seen bits and pieces. I mostly watch BuzzFeed Unsolved for the entertainment factor because you've got someone who wholeheartedly believes and someone who does not believe and is literally just there to humor his friend. So you get some very interesting back and forth.
Yeah. But when it comes to like the whole cryptic thing, seeing like little creatures, there was a program that I watched last weekend while I was at Joe's parents' place called Caught on Camera. And my thing is, if someone has posted their thing online and they're expecting people to believe them, look at all the other instances in the same area. Did anybody else witness the same phenomenon? And this one program has a habit of, just showing that one video that this person sent in and stating that this happened, but no actual research into the area of did anybody else see this? Apparently there's like this floating guy that was seen, and the guy he called it Jesus, but it was just you don't see the actual parachute. And why for the love of God? We have the technology to make great videos up until we try to capture a ghost or a cryptic. It's always grainy.
What the?
Oh, did something break?
No. My candle, which as you can see is guarded on all sides from wind, just went out.
All right.
Bigfoot doesn't like Willow making fun of cryptids and cryptid videos. So he came and blew out the candle. So Willow, I'm still trying to get a handle here. Are you a believer or are you a skeptic?
I'm still a little bit skeptic when it comes to these instances, because to me there's no explanation as to why stuff is happening. And
well, look, magic is just science that we haven't discovered yet.
And some of it we do understand, such as different herbal-based things.
And cryptids, they're just uncatalogued species. I'm going to send you a video. I was about to do it before you went live. I'm going to send you a video of a Bigfoot sighting this week that is pretty damn amazing. Someone was kayaking down the river and spotted a Sasquatch crossing the river, got his cell phone out, and he's got an iPhone, and he's maybe 200 yards away, but it's pretty clear footage. It's pretty amazing.
See, in a lot of the videos that I've seen of Bigfoot, it kind of reminds me of a very tall guy, or it could be a hunter in a ghillie suit.
Well, some of them are. Some of them are. And for me to say, wow, this could be the real thing is pretty amazing. Because, I spent a career as the bamboozlist, as a magician, exposing cons and specializing in fooling people and doing carnival games and cons and whatnot. So it's really hard to fool me.
Mm-hmm.
And I will admit when something is fake, and I'll point it out. But when something looks real and I can't see any reason for it to be fake, I'll tell you. In this video I'm going to send you.
Okay.
It's
one of my favorite bits of Bigfoot. I won't say trivia because it's really not. The sons of the person who allegedly faked the original footprints did come out and say, no, our dad faked this, like we helped him. And the entire nation said, no, you're making that up. So I'd like to say either their father is the greatest trickster of all time, or these two kids just want people to shut up about Bigfoot.
Well, so footprints and footprint castings have been taken
Yes.
all over the world for hundreds of years.
I would also like to point out there's also the Yeti and the Yowie, which are very similar creatures in different parts of the world.
Yes.
I think it's very entertaining that two kids either decided they were going to ruin the greatest prank of all time, or they thought that the word of two kids was going to shut everyone up.
No.
Yeah. It's the same thing with the crop circle thing. Like everybody believed that these crop circles were real, and then it turns out it was two guys with a 2x4.
Oh well,
and
only in that one place. Crop circles have appeared all over the world, Willow, for decades before those guys were born. So either there's this massive club that has stayed hidden and secure from everybody else that gives people instructions on how to make crop circles without it becoming public knowledge, which would be the biggest conspiracy ever, the best kept secret ever, or those two guys hoaxed everyone by recreating crop circles in the best way they knew how and saying, see, this is obviously how they were all created.
Bit of column A, bit of column B. I don't think all crop circles are faked. I do think the vast majority of them are. Simply because looking at the numbers, the sheer number of crop circles that have popped up, someone would have seen something by now.
Well, they do.
Would be. I'm going to rephrase that. I feel like we'd have more proof by now with the sheer number of crop circles. But I do think that they got the idea from somewhere.
Do you believe that the crash in Roswell actually was a real alien ship, or?
Absolutely.
I'm very skeptical on aliens, but I view aliens the way most people view the paranormal. I'm not sure. When it comes to certain things, we are a very young race. Like, it's widely possible, but I have not seen enough to convince me yet. Now, Roswell is very weird, and, John, you're probably going to know more than me. What was it, the Phoenix Lights? I think it was?
Yeah, the Phoenix Lights, that was in 96.
Yes, the Phoenix Lights are one that is extremely. It's probably the more convincing bit that I've seen.
Yeah, that is an unbelievable account. And if you've not seen it, go Google it, watch it. It's been filmed by dozens of people from different vantage points, and it is clearly not flares being shot up into the sky. Exactly. Like the Air Force claimed at the time. Now, the U.S. Air Force has come out and admitted that unidentified aerial phenomenon do exist. UFOs do exist, and they have tracked them, photographed them, but they're not willing to say what they are publicly. However, before Roswell, there was a crash. There were two crashes. One was in Arizona. The other one was in Hannibal, Missouri. Hannibal, Missouri is maybe the more famous one. And there are photographs that ran in the newspaper of the alien body in a casket. And that body was buried in the cemetery in Hannibal, Missouri. I want to say this was 1920, maybe it was the late 1800s. There was one in the late 1800s in the West that crashed through a windmill. Hannibal, Missouri, I want to say it was 1920 something. And the government, the city government, state government of Missouri has refused to allow the body to be exhumed or even for sonic testing, for them to, do sonic imaging of the gravesite. And it's a fascinating case. You really gotta check into that. Now, what's interesting about Roswell is for 3 days, newspapers and radio reported that it was a UFO crash. And reporters on site, reported and wrote in published work that they saw the bodies, they saw the craft. And it wasn't until 3 days later, after the federal government debriefed them, that everybody changed their story and started calling it a crashed weather balloon. Mm-hmm. I had a friend who worked at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio, who told me off the record, I can't share his name, that absolutely there are 3 bodies kept there and an aircraft that was recovered. My brother was a Navy SEAL. Just kind of going back to Bigfoot, who had a face-to-face encounter at the base of Mount St. Helens in Seattle. And the Navy published a manual, an official manual to document how soldiers, servicemen should deal with Sasquatch encounters and report them. And according to a friend of mine in the Department of Defense, when Mount St. Helens erupted, there was an entire population of Bigfoot Sasquatches that were wiped out, and that the federal government recovered bodies for up to 3 years.
Oh, wow.
And I trust my brother because he's a Navy SEAL, and when Navy SEALs lie, people die. And if the Navy believes that they're real with a manual, then who am I to argue?
Yeah. See, yeah, that's how I feel about crop circles. They're more fake than real because, I mean, shouldn't there be like burn marks as well in the middle of these crop circles that were apparently done by the aircrafts? But I mean, no doubt in my mind, I do believe in aliens. Trust me. Like, we can't be the only humanoids.
Well, it is the height of arrogance to believe that we are the only intelligent life in the universe. I mean, the avarice. And to think that, there couldn't be interdimensional type of travel. Maybe it's time travelers. Maybe it's not even alien life. Maybe it's human life from the future. Maybe all of these things are connected. Maybe spirits, maybe Sasquatch, Loch Ness Monster, UFOs are all images from the past or the future. Because, Albert Einstein theorized that the timeline is an endless loop. That to travel back in time, you travel forward on the timeline to a place in the past because it's an endless circle. Well, what if that circle is elastic? and maybe folds in on itself at points. And at those points where it nearly touches or does touch, we see things from the past and things from the future.
See, I do believe that it in interdimensional wavelengths as well. But yes, I love where you're going on that, because one of the questions that I was gonna ask is, do you believe in like echo marks when it comes to ghostly apparitions? Like, so is someone living either like decades in the past having their spirit echo into our timeline?
I mean, that's one plausible explanation. I can't explain this, but you talked about maybe seeing your grandfather. There are times where I smell my mother's cigarette.
Yeah,
she was always smoking, and there are times when I smell that smoke, that tobacco in my nostrils. I don't smoke. I've never smoked. Nobody in our family does. Nobody, and I'll smell that cigarette smoke in our bathroom or in the kitchen. And I have for 20 years. She's been passed away for 20 years now. And that's when it started, right after she passed away.
Yeah. I have the same thing when my grandpa does appear. I do smell his cologne, which is like I mean it's common, but Old Spice. Who wears Old Spice now? Mostly with guys. It's a form of Old Spice, but it's not the classic stuff.
But it's trendy again now. As long as you're not wearing Brute.
The vast majority of people I've met who wear Old Spice are middle schoolers. So just putting that out there. Unless you're interacting with a lot of middle schoolers, I do not think.
No, because a lot of times when I smell it, I'm by myself. And I don't have, as far as I know, I don't have a can of Old Spice anywhere in this house. I mean, my husband used to wear like the Old Spice deodorant, but he switched to Irish Spring. So it's just
I wear Old Spice White Fang. They have the coolest scents. They have Kraken Guard and Wolf Fang and just really cool stuff.
No,
they have a Yeti scent. It's called what is it called? Winter Yeti something. It's pretty awesome. And I gotta buy it just because it's
yeah,
weird and cool.
Obviously, they know their market.
Apparently.
And what gets me about that is that it doesn't smell like wet dog.
No, it smells good.
Now, I am curious, John, what is your take on a lot of the different methods of divination, or fortune telling as it's more commonly called? Well,
you're not going to like my answer.
Uh-oh.
I'm sure I'm not, and I can explain where I come in on this in a while.
So I'm a Christian, and I'm a ordained minister. I have a minor in comparative world religions, and there is a very strict taboo against witchcraft. In the word in the original Hebrew is divination. Not because it in and of itself is evil, but because it tends to be a gateway.
Oh, we lost him.
Uh-oh. Come back. All right. So yeah, we're gonna probably experience a lot of interesting stuff.
It might be internet connection.
Oh, there we go.
bumped off.
You back?
I got bumped off completely.
Looks like something doesn't want you talking about gateways, John.
Well, so that's my opinion, that it is a gateway, and that the prohibition against it in Scripture is not because it's necessarily evil, but because it can lead to the dark arts, and that is a big no-no. That's so that's where I fall on it. I would advise anyone to avoid it at all costs.
I am going to rephrase my questions. In the sense of validity.
It's definitely valid.
Okay.
I mean, look, Saul, in the Old Testament, Saul went to the witch at Endor.
Yes.
And asked her to conjure the spirit of Samuel, which she did. And,
I do remember this.
And Samuel, and the ghost of Samuel was called forth and provided counsel and advice to King Saul. And then there are other instances of witchcraft or black magic being used, or divination being used, spiritual conjuring throughout Scripture. So the Bible definitely acknowledges that it is a thing. But it's in the New Testament where Paul warns against its use, because
that to a certain extent.
What's that?
I do agree with that to a certain extent, though maybe not for the same reason. I am a secular practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I see a lot is people assuming that getting a reading will solve all of their problems. It'll give them all of the answers.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what it does.
Yeah.
So I tend to warn people against getting readings if they feel like they're just throwing stuff at a wall to see what sticks.
Yeah.
And I do preface all of my readings by saying, now this is what's going to happen if you change nothing. If you don't like what you hear, change it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a friend who is a an avowed Wiccan, tarot card reader, holistic healer, herbalist. She is big.
Tarot.
What's that?
I never got the hang of tarot.
Yeah, she's a tarot card reader, and she claims to be a medium. She came on one of my tours, and she confirmed a lot of things that people have felt or seen without having known the stories herself.
Mm-hmm.
She said, there's this thing happening over here. I was like, that's very funny that you say that, because, in terms of divination and whatnot, sorcery, I believe it exists. I just don't know that it's the best idea to play around with it.
The way I tend to read, and this is why I think you might find this a little more interesting, I don't know if I'm actually reading cards or if I'm reading the person. I'm a very sensitive empath.
Yeah, I'd say probably the cards are just a tool.
Mm-hmm.
There's no special power in the cards. They're just printed ink on paper.
Well, I'll say yes and no. There are certain decks that you feel more attached to. There are certain decks that work better. This is my all-time favorite deck. I have another deck that is an astrology-based deck that legitimately just feels dead. I'll never be able to read that deck. And I cannot explain why. This one, I've read Willow on this deck. This deck is my get your shit together deck.
That's the deck that told Garrett that he works too much.
Yes, the deck that told Garrett, a hopeless workaholic that would die before he took a vacation.
Hey, Willow, I am having a ball with you, but I am being beckoned, so I'm going to have to take off.
Oh, no worries.
I
Very
love
nice
this.
To meet you, John.
Yes, same here. I love this conversation, And before I go, this is a great time to mention that Willow will be hosting her own show on the Back of the Cereal Box Network starting August 1st.
I'm excited for this.
She will be hosting Cryptid Crunch on the Back of the Cereal Box Network, taking a deep dive into cryptids and paranormal and alien encounters in the light of the pop culture surrounding them. So,
and I'm gonna research the heck out of this because
the only
there's
thing you need to know is that the Mothman statue has an ass.
Well, and here's the thing I want you to do, Willow, is don't just talk about those stories. Everyone talks about these stories. Talk about the pop cultural impact and the importance that they have in our pop culture, and cover things like the movies made from the stories and the books and comics and maybe some of the board games.
Absolutely.
That whole thing. I envision this as you hanging out in the treehouse for a camp out and telling those cryptid stories, those ghost stories, those alien encounter stories, with the flashlight in the treehouse. Willow's treehouse of horror.
And
absolutely.
I work too much, I would argue, but I have a new show called. Yeah, Garrett, dear.
So that will debut August 1st.
Congratulations, Willow.
I'm excited for this, and we will definitely. I definitely will do my research and make sure that it's pop culture referenced all around. So
there is someone I can put you in contact if you'd like. She and I regularly make jokes about the moth ass, as we call it. Oh, she's great. Her name's Liz. She does a lot of different paranormal investigation around LA.
Okay.
Fantastic. She's 5 feet tall, and I like to make fun of her. But
well,
John, very nice to meet you, dear.
Yeah, and nice to meet you too, Harlequin. You're not the only Harlequin on this broadcast.
Oh, yes. He does a version of her.
Oh, fantastic.
And he's sexy.
Yep, I'm a Harlequin cosplayer.
As am I. I took the name. It's over here. I took the name generally to kind of encompass everything I do because it's easier for people to remember, and I would like to maybe not have my real name known by absolutely everyone.
Completely understand that.
I've gained a few stalkers that way, so we've started going by Harlequin.
Well,
I don't know what it's like to use a fake name at all.
Wait, is Willow Schuyler not your real name?
No, it's not. You guys want to know what my real name is?
You don't have to
Sheila.
share that.
No, it's okay. I go by either name. Sheila is my real name.
It doesn't connect. No, you're Willow.
To me, I've never felt a connection with that name at all my whole life.
Definitely
Sweet
Willow.
little Sheila, you'll know her when you see
That's
her.
the song.
Blue eyes and a ponytail.
Seriously, that's the song that my mom named me after.
Yep, sweet little Sheila. Yeah. I love it. All right, I gotta go, guys. Love you, mean it. We'll catch you on the flip side.
John, you're more than welcome to add me on Facebook or anything. Willow can definitely send you that contact information.
We will do it. I would love to do that. Guys, have a good night.
Bye, sweetie.
Take care.
So, yeah. And I do get what he's saying. Divination is something that is very easy for people to learn. And unless you actually know what you're playing with, and I shouldn't use the word playing because it's not. It can be very dangerous if you don't do it correctly.
Yeah.
So what he said does have value to it. It does have credence. I would say it's not inherently a bad thing, but it's the same thing as playing with fire if you don't have any experience. Some you like, some you don't, Harlequin. I'm not quite sure what you mean, Deb. Can you elaborate? While you type, I'm going to keep talking. I do love Oracle. Tarot I never really got the hang of, simply because it is a very structured style of reading, and it's too much information for me to remember. The only downside being is you have to relearn how to read with every deck you get, because every deck is different when you do Oracle. Yeah. With Tarot, most of them are based on the Rider-Waite deck model, which means any deck you pick up, you can read if you know the Rider-Waite model.
And does it have the same thing as tarot cards, where you're supposed to you're supposed to be given the deck to have more power and not buy it?
Depends on your reading style. I've read virtually, as you know. Most of the readings I've done are virtual. I have done in-person readings. The difference being is usually you're in a more public space, and as an empath, things get very loud. Like, the best way I can explain that for people who aren't empaths, when you're in a loud room and you can hear all the different kinds of conversation and you have to focus to pick one out, think that, but with emotions and pictures, and you're getting stuff from absolutely everyone around you. And you have to try to focus on the person that you're reading to make sure that when you pull cards, or when you're, working out a card's meaning, you don't accidentally pull from someone else.
That's exactly how I feel like when I helped out a couple of years ago at the Vaughn Street Jail. There was a Doors Open Winnipeg thing where people do tours of historic buildings. Whoops, that's the wrong thing. The Vaughn Street Jail was a place that was used for many years. I think they stopped using it back in the 70s, and they would actually house children that ran away.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually held hangings there.
That sounds about right.
And yeah, one of the people that they hung actually lost his head. So yeah, that's an interesting story, but one of the horrific stories that they tell during that tour. And when you go to that, for me, I walked up to it, and right away I can hear like screaming in my head, and just like the sadness of that place, and just like it was just like so emotional, and it's like, this is killing me.
When I visited Italy I shouldn't say a few years ago, it was probably sophomore year in high school. I think it was sophomore year, so that would have been 2012-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I got to visit one of the palaces, and I believe it was Venice.
Oh, wow.
There's something called the Bridge of Sighs. Are you familiar with that?
It sounds familiar, yeah. I'm pretty sure I've heard of it.
There's a palace, there's a canal, and then there's the dungeon. The Bridge of Sighs connects the two. It's called the Bridge of Sighs because it is the last thing a prisoner would walk over before they died.
Oh.
Because you were housed in the dungeon, but you were executed in the palace.
Interesting.
Halfway across, I felt like I had been punched in the gut, and it just got cold.
Wow. Yeah, just
It
some
was-
places just have that hard feeling, and like the place is evil or haunted or something.
And it's not even evil when you walk in, it's more just like hopeless. Extreme hopelessness.
Yeah. It's the same feeling that I get in most hospitals. It's like, like just there's a lot of pain, a lot of sorrow. Yeah.
I get very cold very fast when walking by the Vaughan Street jail, even on very hot days. Yes. Hello, Franny. Very nice to meet you, my darling. My name is Harlequin. It is feelings of cold.
I'm very much an empath.
Oh, she definitely.
Very much. Oh yeah.
Definitely.
There's a it's funny, there's a place that claims that it's haunted and actually does like tours and stuff like that. And when I was there for a photo shoot, one of the girls that I was with actually asked the people that ran it if the place was haunted, and I was just shaking my head, and the girl's like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "Nope." And she goes, "Why do you say that?" I'm like, "Because I feel nothing."
It's the same with the deck. Like this, it's not so much that this feels like something as that feels like nothing.
Yeah.
And I know it's kind of a weird concept, but that's the closest I can get. I can't explain it.
Just because a place is old doesn't mean that it's actually haunted.
And just because a place is new doesn't mean it's not.
Exactly. I've walked by several newer places that have like I can feel some weird energy at, and I don't I don't like it. So I would love for you to read for me.
Of course, of course. Now, I will say I am working getting the listing up today, but if you go to hquinarts.com, which is my website, you can book me for both in-person and virtual readings. Okay. So if anyone wants to get a reading, you can either reach out there, or if I haven't quite got the listing up, just hit the Connect with Us button to email me, and I can get you all taken care of. I'm going to light stuff on fire again. Give me just a moment.
No worries.
So for those of you wondering what on earth I am doing, I have a combination of lavender and star anise in my cast iron little cauldron here. Now, cast iron, there are different properties of it, but the reason I use cast iron is because it won't burn. It is extremely fire safe. It's meant to be put in actual fire. So it is a completely safe tool to use. Both lavender and star anise have cleansing properties. I will run my cards over the smoke before I read someone every single time, because I don't want residue from anyone else or from myself to potentially impact. And might this do nothing? Yeah. But I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, Deb. So the thing with the cards is people feel that sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about because I'll stutter and stammer, but that's not quite what it is. The cards to me come in mental images and emotions, and it's up to me to try to translate that into words. And the more you read, the more cards you have, the clearer the message will get. Now, Willow, darling, are you looking to get like a 3-card predictive or a past, present, future?
Ooh, I think I'm gonna stick with the past, present, future thing.
Okie dokie. Let's get the smoke going here. Usually I would use matches, but I am currently out. Go ahead.
Bring you up on the big screen.
No. Bring yourself back.
Okay.
Go ahead and focus on me. Like I said, I read the person as much as I read the cards, so I would prefer to be able to see you. Okay. 3 breaths in, 3 breaths out. Fantastic. I'm going to start shuffling. Just focus on me, as well as any message you really want an answer to. Just keep that in mind as I'm talking when I do actually pull your cards. Go ahead and tell me when to stop shuffling.
And stop.
Put it on top or put it on the bottom? This one. On top or bottom?
On top.
Okay. Okay. So past, present, and future. In the past slot, you have your mummy, which, much like the death card, stands for change, but it's a little different. The death card is a cycle of change. It's cyclical, like the life cycle of the death moth. However, the mummy is slow, irreversible change. So there was a lot of change in your past, change that couldn't necessarily be undone.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't change that happened quickly. It was over several, maybe 5-10 years.
Yep.
That makes sense? Good.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
In your present, you have the inverted strength card. Now, a little bit about this card. The skeleton was chosen because the human skeleton has much more strength and durability. I can use words. Durability to it than one would generally think. However, inverted, it's saying the message you need to hear is that you don't need to be the strong one all the time. You're allowed to fall apart a little bit so long as you're able to pick yourself up and put yourself back together like mending a broken bone. And in the future slot, you have invisibility, which stands for authenticity. Not everyone you meet will be authentic. Given that you're an empath, however, it's easier for you to tell who's authentic and who isn't. You need to find...
I'm learning to trust it a lot more now than I have.
It's difficult because you know stuff and you understand stuff, but you don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
And without knowing why, it's a little hard to trust it. And you really do have to learn to just go with it. It's the same thing that the wonderful Patty Negri told me when she was giving me pointers on mediumship. She thinks that I've got some ability there, but I'm not one of the naturally talented people. I will need to work at it in order to further that. She said it's a little difficult when you first start out because you need to turn off the left-hand side of your brain.
Mm-hmm.
You need to focus on saying what pops in your head or whatever feels right, even if it makes no sense.
Okay.
This, even if it makes no sense, approach everything as if everyone's wearing an invisibility cloak that makes their lies invisible. If you think someone's bullshitting you, they probably are.
And you know what? I'm learning how to read people a little bit more as well. And took me up until my 30s to get to that point.
There's a lot of different things that go on. And I know I've got friends that are a little more skeptical.
Yep.
So it can get very interesting. I know that the guy I'm seeing, he played it off very well. I do appreciate the effort from him. He's a little more on the skeptic side. Along the same lines as me, is like, I don't really know what's out there, but a little less I'm going to use the word accepting, but that's not quite the right word.
Mm-hmm.
He walked in, and I do have an altar right over here. And just audibly I heard, whoa. And so I do appreciate the acceptance and his willingness to be like, okay, maybe this chick isn't batshit. Let's stick this out. But it is something that a lot of people don't necessarily accept.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a lot of us, especially when you come from a Christian background, it's hard to get away from that, the belief of Christianity. And
you are very I'd be more than happy to give you a reading, Deb, if you would like. Is there a way to bring her up on camera if she would like a reading?
Yeah, I will go to the chat and send her a message. But yeah, no, for me it was, I knew that there was something else other than the whole Christianity belief system, and learning about paganism. I'm curious about it. I want to learn more about it.
That's perfectly okay, my darling. If you would like to look at a private reading, like I said, shoot me an email or a message to Haunted Harlequin or Harlequin Arts Cosplay, and I can get you all sorted out. But you are amazingly sweet.
I'm gonna post up the your contact information for sure. If you want to send Harley a message, email her.
Harlequin@hquinarts.com. Like I said, I am going to be getting the listing on the website up over the next couple days. Thank you so much, Willow. You are wonderful.
No problem. But yeah, it's something that I've always been interested in, and I knew that there was something more than, reading the Bible and going to church.
Okay, well then let's do something a little fun. I'm not going to give you any context.
Okay.
Just tell me the first things, even if they don't make sense.
Okay.
Hop into your mind.
Oh, the underworld. What does a little context on what that card means?
All I'm going to tell you, because this is how I learned to read.
Okay.
It's just thrown in the deep end. The little bit of writing at the bottom says, where all things pause and begin again. Don't think about it too hard. Just start.
Something like moving to a new place. Like, you just take that moment to, let it sink in that you're moving on.
Mm-hmm. The best way I've ever explained this card is it's the sit the fuck down and take a breath.
Okay.
The artwork, you also can break down cards based on their artwork.
It's a pomegranate with a skull.
Mm-hmm.
Pomegranates usually mean passion.
Hades and Persephone. What happens when Persephone visits the underworld?
She dies.
No.
I apparently need to learn my history again. Or
the world takes a breath. It pauses. Winter.
Okay.
But when she goes back, the cycle of seasons starts again. Spring and summer happen, and things go on.
Okay.
Similar, but not the exact same thing, because I do want to show you how cards with similar concepts can mean completely different things. It's the apple. Also can be Adam and Eve, Hades and Persephone. But this one is risk and reward. Because it's the same concept with the fruit. But in each instance, there is something to be gained and something to be lost. It is up to you to decide if the risk is worth the reward.
Okay.
Yes, Franny, Hades and Persephone.
My Greek mythology is a little off.
That's okay. I do love this deck. There's a lot of mythology I did have to brush up on because everything is inspired by several different kinds of mythology, whether it be Greek, Roman, Egyptian, Christian, or just little bits of trivia.
Met a woman named Cassandra yesterday, and she was telling me something about she was named after Cassandra of Troy, and she was telling me that whole scenario, and the only thing that I could focus on was
Cassandra.
But I thought, yeah, and I completely forgot about that whole.
I love that myth because, for those of you who are unfamiliar, Cassandra was a prophet who was cursed. I do not remember why, but she was cursed by the gods, so though she was never wrong, she was never believed.
Yeah.
Let's try again. Joy.
All right. Why does that card bring me a little bit of sadness, though?
Good. Figure that out. Why?
Okay. That
the little subtext at the bottom says rejoicing in the present.
You know what? That's partly me because my thing, because whenever something good happens in my life, I tend to question it.
Mm-hmm. So what is it telling you?
I don't know. It almost makes me feel like I shouldn't believe the good thing because it's not going to last.
In the present, even if you know it's not going to last. Enjoy the good things now and be sad later.
Okay.
So, see, you're not wrong because by the definition, joy cannot, and thank you, Deb, I'm so glad you're enjoying this. By definition, joy cannot last for ages. It cannot last eternally. We know that when we're happy, we're going to be sad later.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people will skip right to the sad because they're worried about it.
Especially when a lot of tragic things have happened, it's kind of hard to enjoy enjoy that moment of, oh, something good is going to happen, because right away we go into what's going to happen.
I am testing you more than actually pulling for reading because I find this entertaining. So I'm going horror card that I think you do well with. Remember, look at images, look for possible alternate meanings for words, and think outside the box.
Oh, spider. All right. Something that usually brings a little bit of fear into people. I tend to find fascinating. I like.
The subtext says community and web weaving.
Okay. So bringing people together is something that I enjoy. Hence the reason why I like doing these shows. Yeah. I like creating my own sense of family because it's something that I missed growing up.
The spider is a card of community. The web, I don't know how well you can see. The web that's behind the spider here, think of it like your social web. But what's the one thing that's built into all spiders' webs? Tripwires. The spider knows which strands are sticky and which are clean. That's how flies get trapped. Think of flies like people within your social network that maybe don't have your best in mind. Know which people are honest with you and know which aren't. Know where your tripwires are.
That's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah.
The other ways that can be read, depending on the situation, is, lean on your community more. Maybe it's time to thin your social circle. What is Nicholas saying? I just stumbled on that. Sound like you were chasing the high strangeness, the spider's positive aspects, so just beware the negative act. Exactly. There are both positive and negative when it comes to social circles and things of the like. Be aware, but don't ignore.
Build yourself a web and stick to it.
Yeah. Where is my favorite card? Just because I love the artwork.
I like Carl's thing. It's like a free Rorschach ink block test and counseling.
This one's probably my favorite.
The graveyard.
This one is unnecessary fear. Now, here's the thing about graveyards. In Victorian to Edwardian times, think like 1880s to 1910s, graveyards were a very happy place. Take your family there for a picnic to talk with your... Oh, no, you're good, Nicholas.
Dude, you're not intruding at all.
That's what we live for.
You're part of the conversation.
Exactly. We love people pitching in. We love to hear different points of view. There'd be no point in doing any of this if you didn't have an open mind. But you take your family there for a picnic, talk. Oh God, words. Words are very hard for me. Reminisce. That's why there's a lot of amazing different mausoleums, architecture, statues, fountains. And somewhere along the line, I'm not sure exactly where. I'm glad you like the graveyard card, Deb. People started becoming very afraid of graveyards. Now, I do understand that there's a lot of dead people there, and dead people can be uncomfortable. But there's nothing that's going to hurt you in a graveyard. So why are people afraid?
I think it's the
it's creepy, it's dark, and you're by yourself. That's really why. But when you logic it out, there's no reason.
It's the same thing with black cats. Why are people afraid of black cats?
because they were thought to be witches' companions, and the whole religion bit is still so intertwined with modern superstition.
That's the word that I was looking for. Graveyards are.
You have a black cat card in here. That one is fortune meets opportunity. So you're good at what you do, but you're also lucky. My darling.
I have a black cat myself. Well, she's more torty than black, but she looks like she got into the bleach.
Oh, darling.
I love her though.
You love black cats? Oh, so do I.
Yes.
My friend has a black cat named Penny, who is a little freaking weirdo. I love that cat so much, but she's so weird. She curls up and she's just this little void with eyes.
Oh, I had a black cat named Shadow. Don't ask why we named him Shadow, but he loved hugs.
Cats are amazingly
opportunists. Yep. Yeah, my cat Simba is very much an opportunist.
They are definitely their cats are very weird. I've always said, you're a great person if a cat loves you.
Mm-hmm.
Cats are extremely picky.
Yep. It's funny. My cat Midnight came up to me the other day. She went on the back of the couch and she just like purred herself nuts. It's like she purrs really loud too, and so for some reason she chose the back of the couch on the side where I was lying, and I was like, I think that was her way of calming me at that moment. And so it's nice to have that with my animals, where it's like, even though she doesn't really cuddle with me, she knows when I'm stressed out.
Do we have anyone in the chat who has any questions or has a topic that they want to talk about? Oh yes, they're definitely little mischief makers.
Cats were classed as lucky. Yep.
And all cats through ancient Egyptian mythology are classed as holy or sacred.
Good to know.
There was actually a cat-faced goddess named Bast.
Okay. I did not know that.
Ironically, though, I'm pretty sure cats named themselves as far as Egypt. Do you know what the Egyptian name for cat is?
No, I think I used to.
Mao.
Mao?
The Egyptian Mao. Which really means that Egyptians are running around naming things like Pokemon trainers. Oh, referred to graveyards. Yeah, okay, yes. Now, it depends on the era your graveyard is from, Nicholas. If you have a more modern graveyard, you're going to get more flat gravestones. Yes, they do, Carl, and they will never let us live it down. You're going to get more flat headstones, so they're not really tripping hazards. But when you get things that have older, you will get the upright, which do hurt like a bitch if you run your knee into. It applies to most things, honestly.
Yep. And in a lot of senses, I do still worship my cats because they're like we buy them stuff, we feed them, we try to make them happy.
I let her wake me up every couple hours. Oh, you're into the paranormal? Name every entity. Gods.
You first.
I'm gonna go with gods. Tell me I'm wrong. But, Tavia, darling, yes, so there are several different entities. I work mostly with lovely Hecate here. But there... Oh, this is getting a little melty for my liking. Gonna just avoid a mess there. There are a lot of different things that people can work with. Anything from Hades and Persephone to Lilith to... Oh, I got my fingernail a little bit there. That's okay. I've worked at Starbucks. That's one out of about 1 billion. I think your names seem to be more mythology, paranormal.
That's a good question. What made you realize what you love to do?
Deb, I do hear you. Give me one moment. I have a thing to say. Tavia, dear, mythology is simply just the beliefs of other cultures that you don't believe. So the paranormal is the same idea. Yes, I'm naming different gods, but there are also things that come from different belief systems that are the same thing. When Greek and Roman mythology refer to shades, that's what we call ghosts. Spirits and dryads or paranormal is the unexplained. We, for the most part, understand where people were coming from with mythologies. Yes and no. We have the stories, but can you really tell the truth through just the stories? Mythology does play hand in hand because it gives us the symbolism. The paranormal, yes, you've come in a little late in the show. We did cover a lot of different hauntings, cryptids, aliens. We covered different experiences people have had. So you're coming in a little later when we've talked a lot about the stuff that would be stereotypically considered paranormal happenings already. Some of them, sure. So we highly dependent on what mythology we're talking about. Okay. A lot of the mythologies were done to explain what they couldn't explain. Like we mentioned earlier, Hades and Persephone. That was to explain the changing of seasons because they didn't understand why things changed.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the same with religion as well. Like there's stories that we're supposed to learn from to follow through from the Bible.
But going back to Debs, because I did tell her I'd get back to her. Go ahead. Thank you so much, Tavia. I am trying to bounce around and keep track of everyone. What made me realize that I loved what I do. So it's one of those things where I think I always kind of knew, but because, almost every little girl goes through a witchcraft phase. We all do.
Oh, yeah.
I'd always viewed it, even though I still wanted to, as child's play. Because I was one of the kids that would when we go camping, you put like leaves, twigs, and water in a bucket and you call it a potion. I was one of those kids. I love to collect things. I've always loved different herbs and different things like that. But once I kind of got over that mental hump and I met some of the people that have been featured on Ghost Adventures, through talking to them, I realized that, oh no, wait. So it wasn't so much learning to love what I do or realizing I love what I do as much as accepting that it was more than just children playing.
Yeah.
And Tavia, I do really appreciate the point you bring up because yes, mythology isn't necessarily paranormal. But if you are a witch, like I am a secular witch who works with Hecate. She is a Greek goddess featured in multiple different Greek stories in Greek mythology. But she is also the patron of magic and witchcraft. So it's breaking down the stories and the role to find the symbolism within it. There are people who have a strong Christian faith that will work with Lilith, usually. Lilith or Mary are the two most popular that you get. I've heard a couple Eve, but she's generally not brought into most conversations.
Well, okay. Here's the thing with me. Okay, I kind of live my life on instances of things that happen just like by chance or like coincidences. Okay, I met a girl named Cassandra last night, and we were talking about mythology, and like, and for something like where one woman last night was talking about what her name meant and who she was named after, to come up in a conversation today about mythology, that's very weird to me, because it's very coincidental that something like that would come up in conversation twice in a row. So, is that kind of could tie into the paranormal.
You first, Tavia darling. And I will say, based on that comment, name every spell, the thing I do like about witchcraft is it is more about intent than it is about getting everything right. There are two different books that a witch will generally keep. One is a book of shadows, one is a grimoire. Do you know the difference? Willow?
No, I do not.
No? Okay, so a grimoire is for the public eye. A grimoire is to be shared. A book of shadows is just for you. It's what works for you. What works, what doesn't, changes you've made, because every person is different. So your workings need to be tailored to you. I know that a lot of people generally don't. I just completely forgot where I was going with that sentence. Binding of Isaac, the Book of Shadows, gives you temporary invincibility. I'm not sure about that. I think in modern times, like, we might not try to kick your ass if you just give us the book back, because that probably represents years of work that we'd have to redo and replace. But in that same sense, that myth comes from the Book of Shadows, not in the Binding of Isaac, sorry, the video game. Okay, well, I can actually tell you where that would come from then. A Book of Shadows is thought to be, if we're talking like, mystical bullshit stuff, the source of the witch's power. Because it is where we keep the crap that works for us. It's like my book of favorites. But getting the quote-unquote source of power would theoretically grant you invincibility, which is probably how they came to this conclusion. Or they just thought, hey, that sounds spooky, we should do this. Bingo.
Good point.
I am both a witch and an empath. It's two different things. Empath just means you register and feel others' emotions more strongly, as if almost as if they were your own. You're much more sensitive. IDK, the whole game picks it. Yeah, and that's fair. And if they did do their research and picked it for a reason, that just makes me respect the game that much more.
Tend to be more works in progress, running notes.
Yes. multiple grimoires have been published. In my circles, running notes, works in progress, anything that we want to keep for just us, or extremely personalized things that, if published, probably wouldn't really work for other people. Taking Grandma's cookbook will not keep her from being able to make stew. True, but it will get your ass beat. Same concept. Probably have an honest blast picking apart the history of the items in that game, if that one excited you at all. I could definitely take a look. I am a gamer, so that does fascinate me. But I also am kind of the mind that, look, as long as they're not being intentionally insulting, let entertainment be entertainment.
But I mean, you can't exactly take the information from a video game to be the actual information of what.
Yeah. I do love seeing things that are definitely inspired, and while upplayed for theatrical quality, research was obviously done to start these.
Mm-hmm. There is a game that I loved playing on GameCube that messes you up so much. The name of the game escapes me right now, but
you know what? I'm good with that, Tavia. And I know this is gonna sound kind of bitchy. I don't really care. Catholicism and Christianity are the ones that I'm kind of okay with people making fun of, simply because of the sheer amount of destruction that those religions have had a hand in, especially recently.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's the same thing that's what's happening here in Canada with the residential school thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, religions, both Catholic and other Christian religions have run these schools, and now they're finding children's bodies in mass graves.
It's up to what, at least 500 or so, maybe more.
It's up to over 1,000 now.
Yeah. I stopped reading the articles because it was making me too depressed.
Yep. And more and more, they're searching the grounds of old residential schools, and it's and it angers me because of the fact that I was forced to live in a Christian home growing up in foster care, you know, and and learning history, Christianity just it's violent.
It's very much a well, let me put it this way. They were called the Christian Crusades.
More wars have been fought because of religion.
Oh, 100%. And even starting out, Christianity was condemned in ancient Rome. It was considered an evil cult. Do you know why the little fish is the symbol of Jesus?
I remember learning that in youth group, but now...
Because back when Christians were persecuted, if you wanted to know who was safe, you drew a little half moon in the sand with your foot. A very innocent gesture. But if the person standing next to you understood, they'd draw another little half moon that would make a fish. So it was a safe way to ask without fearing execution.
Yeah.
Myself drawn to crystals and stones. That doesn't make me a witch, or could I be? I myself have never had any attraction to crystals. In my mind, like, it's a shiny rock. I've never understood it. However, I know a lot of witches that do a lot of work with crystals. However, there are other crystals that will simply amplify certain abilities based on your belief. My theory on the thing has always been, I don't believe in crystals, so they do nothing for me. And they do nothing for me because I don't believe in them.
Yeah.
It is kind of weird and circular, but you get the idea. They don't make you a witch just because they work for you. But they are something, yes, this, right down there. But at the same time, if you want to look into witchcraft and being a practitioner, crystals may be something that would hold a stronger power for you. So it's never one because of the other, but they do go hand in hand, where you can use both to aid the other.
Yep. But, you know, I know there was like a holistic shop in my neighborhood that I would go to periodically, and I tried doing the crystal thing as a healing thing for my anxiety and other situations. And again, yeah, you have to believe in the energy that'll work for you. And I didn't understand the power behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really have anybody to explain that to me either.
I understand there's certain properties and there's certain, just like with herbs, but for me, I just don't get it. Because it's a rock. But that's me. I do believe in all of the different herbal properties, even if it's not necessarily properties that can be scientifically explained. So it really is what works for you.
Yeah.
Something that you might want to look into if you do decide to look into practicing is an eclectic. Technically, I am an eclectic witch. It's, you pick different bits from each different, we call them little categories. It's just overarching names for how you practice, like the kitchen witch, green witch, forest witch. They generally have different methods that they'll practice by, and it's just an easier identifier so that you don't have to go through a list. But the eclectics will kind of pick and choose from each category and keep what works and do away with what doesn't.
Yeah.
I tried the cards, they just don't. And that's okay. I can't do tarot cards whatsoever. They don't make sense to me. I can do oracle cards because it is much more empathic in nature.
My sister was very much all about reading the astrology and being able to... Whoop. All right, so if Harlequin comes back, I'll continue on with the show. Okay, there we go.
I have no idea what just happened. I stayed in the I think my camera got nudged and got unplugged.
Oh, that's okay.
Tarot is one of the fringe things that I don't believe in. We have perfectly concise explanation in the field of psychology why tarot cards do what they supposedly do, and that's true. The thing I've always said when I read, the reason I can't really read tarot is because it is a very structured kind of reading, and it's too much for me to remember.
Yeah.
But the cards that I own are very intentionally vague, so that you really do have to do some reading, whether you're reading the person, their energy, or your cards, or a combination of the three, in order to get a cohesive message. And like I said earlier, I don't know if you were here, Tavia. What I did say earlier was, this is only if you do not change anything. If you don't like what you hear, change your path. Do something different. Add something new to your routine. Because I do believe that free will is a thing and nothing is set in stone. This is more of it is called a prediction for a reason. Deb, you love the forest, okay? I would look into things like crystals, herbs, smoke divination might work very well for you. There's a lot of different things. If you do what you've always done, you'll end up where you've always gotten. Exactly. Which is why I did read a friend of mine a while back, and he said, oh, well, this doesn't tell me anything. It's just like every reading I've ever got. And I'm like, okay, what did you change after your last reading? Nothing. That's why.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting, and it's not a precise science. I love how you guys look at both sides. As long, oh wait, I'm trying to. Okay, we're gonna start with Nicholas because he's on the screen. As long as folks close up their circles, clean up after themselves. Exactly. And I did explain that earlier a little bit. The reason I do agree a little bit with what John said about divination being a quote-unquote gateway. If you don't know what you're doing, it can be dangerous. Close your gateways, close your circles. If you summoned anything, put it back where it came from. My issue is a lot of times they sell Ouija boards in toy stores.
Okay. The story behind why I will never have I don't like Ouija boards myself. My sister and I played with one without knowing exactly what it was. It hated me. The spirit that we contacted hated me in particular. This thing made the pointer fly off, and it wasn't just the pointer itself that hit me in the chest. Something else hit me, and it felt like a punch, and it knocked the wind out of me. And ever since then, I was like, nope, and I will never touch a Ouija board ever again. My sister had it in our bedroom one day, and I threw it out.
I have never owned a Ouija board. I've never played with a Ouija board. I've never touched a Ouija board. There is just something about the idea that doesn't hold any kind of attraction to me. Maybe because, you know, when I did start out, the big hurdle that I had to get across was the child's play aspect. And like I said, it's sold in toy stores. So that might be a me hurdle. But it can be dangerous if you don't know the correct practices, if you don't know how to close your circle, if you don't know how to cleanse. Simply saying goodbye will not do it. You need your salt, and you need to eat something salty to ground yourself. Exactly. Put that on the table.
Yep.
This. But only 3 years old to summon Satan. And not even necessarily Satan. Satan really just wanted some love. Satan has daddy issues. What you're probably going to contact is something angry. Something angry and looking for a target. Deb says, I love how you guys look at both sides without an argument. Of course, there are definitely things that have been said that I disagree with, but that's me. It's not necessarily everyone's belief, and we are definitely kind of trucking in a realm where belief and fact kind of the same thing. Because there's not facts, there's not science, or, well, maybe science, but there's not scientific proof as we follow it. There was a deep voice. You might be hearing my housemates. Or Willow's TV.
Yeah. My TV is playing in the background, guys.
Ghost, it is probably going to be drowned out by Willow's TV, which makes me sad. There's a delightful rule I call the Constantine Clause. The more you see of them, the more they see. Ouija boards are like random open doorways to unknown areas. Exactly. I've been part of seances that use Ouija boards. I think that they are so much fun and so useful when I am not the one using them. I just don't really have a desire. The only reason I might use one is if I do get to visit my Satanist friend, who works mostly with Ouija boards, as he's the one that taught me to read Oracle and has been kind of my guide through a lot of this. So I'd trust him, and I would trust Patty Negri. Those are the only two that I would trust to Ouija board. Demons through a Ouija board have no obligation whatsoever to be truthful towards you, and pretending to be a loved one is a very easy way to keep the gate open. So they're going to do that. That being the case, the chances of actually contacting someone you know are astronomically low and not worth your time. Exactly. Now, most little girls going into it just want to see who's there. They want to see what will happen. But it's kind of like Halloween, where you open the door expecting a friendly face, and you get a friendly face, but you don't actually know what those person's intentions are.
I'll look into it and see.
Given that Willow is a relatively sensitive empath, I think if she didn't freak out, we're fine.
This house has like no spiritual energy at all, and the house was owned by my husband's grandparents before we took over, and they owned it since the 60s. Nobody died in this house.
Now, Willow, just because I don't want to take up too much of your time, do you have time that you want to be done here?
I can end the show at any point.
Okay. I just want to make sure I don't keep talking.
Oh, yeah. No.
Turn it off. What is that, Nicholas? Can we please add that the paranormal is a lot of its own flora and fauna, and in normal natural settings, things will gladly eat your face? Yes. So why would they need your hands on the Ouija planchette? The spirit should be able to move it without you. Yes and no. It is a doorway because it is energy exchange. With your hands on the planchette, your energy can be used so that the spirit can easily communicate rather than kind of throwing crap at a wall and seeing what sticks.
They have to channel.
It allows for a more controlled method of communication because the spirit has more or less a battery, which is you.
The things that fell off the shelves and the boxes had really no reason to fall off from where they were. It's things tend to break around me, electronic wise. My husband even has said that I should walk around with a grounding wire attached to me because I constantly shock him. But yeah, it's
the same thing with dowsing rods. That's why I do believe, wrong words. I don't believe that the experiment done on BuzzFeed Unsolved Supernatural with the dowsing rods was accurate. Their theory was good. They taped them to a shelf so that they could make sure there was no human error, which I understand. But in turn, that means that there's no battery for the spirit to use. There's no energy for the spirit to suck and to channel to make the rods move. So it's exactly, Deb. Also, the mindset that spirits have a limited ethereal energy and that interacting with physicality is pretty costly and exhausting. I don't think it's possible for a spirit to use 100% of their retained energy. I think, theoretically speaking, that would be like a second version of death, if that's a thing. However, I do think it's kind of like when humans pass out, where it's like a safety built-in breaker switch, where if they use too much, it's you get depleted and exhausted, and you're out for a bit until you're recharged. Now, that is just me. I don't have really any basis for this. Someone who's done a lot more interacting with spirits, that does do different podcasts, different shows, different live videos, would be the celebrity psychic medium Patty Negri. She does have a Facebook page. You should be able to go ahead and like that. I will try to send that to Willow so that she can post that.
Okay.
One thing I never got, why would someone be willing to engage with them knowing it is a parasitic arrangement? Because you go into it knowing what is expected, and you are the one with the ability to close the gate. They, as far as I'm aware, of course, if you're not careful and you get possessed, that's on you. Like, don't be a dumbass. If you get possessed, it's probably your fault.
Yeah.
But for the most part,
don't play with something that you don't understand.
But for the most part, they do need some kind of permission. So as long as, like, I'm willing to interact with things, I have, and I generally do, because I am aware that while these things are able to borrow and use my energy, the minute I say I'm done, it's over. We're done. I still hold the reins. I still hold the control. The same, I can liken it to BDSM. You willingly submit to specific things because you know that your boundary will not be broken, and if you red light or safe word, the session ends. Same thing with the paranormal and with different methods of communication. Astral projection, we have a similar built-in function. If a projector were to run out of energy, they are instantly drawn back into their body. It is a safety mechanic. Though I never considered that for a spirit. Spirit always assumed if they drained, then simply stop existing. The energy can't go away, but the sentience and consciousness can. And that very possibly might be how it works. I am simply guessing, because I do know, I've seen so many different paranormal shows. I do know that different spirits have been heard over the centuries, even if they have gone, I'm sorry, decades, not centuries. My brain's going screwy. Been heard over the decades, even if they do go quiet for a while, which is the basis for my theory. I think that those spirits had to kind of take a breather. But again, it's all... So if a believer asks the questions while a non-believer believing battery holds the planchette or dowsing rods, it would work. In theory, Carl, but there is also a theory that spirits don't bother trying to communicate with non-believers because those attempts at communication would fall on deaf ears, and it does take so much energy for them to be able to attempt to communicate. That being said, it's not even guaranteed that you're going to get anything. Exactly. I can make the joke and say it's not an exact science. It's barely science. Because we don't have a way to test this with the scientific method yet, because there are too many variables to do a controlled experiment. Fascinating, as so many situations I dealt with involved dramatic lack of consent, breakdown of the threshold. And that's probably due to poor shielding. That is generally why, in my experience, different spirits and demons need permission. Granted, as an empath and someone who is on the spectrum, I shield very well because it is a survival mechanism for everyday life. But people who don't really need to shield or don't have any concept of shielding thus far probably doesn't know how to shield themselves. And I don't really have a way to explain that other than like a mental, paranormal locking of doors. It's something that isn't as easy as it sounds, and it takes some energy to maintain, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
Yeah. I like this question.
So Tavia, I do color theory, yes. I do colors, kind of, because I'm more of an emotions empath. But sometimes if you're too far away, you're not physically seeing the color, but it's all you can think about.
Yeah.
Willow to me right now is very blue, which to me is a very calm, kind of an at rest. It's calm ocean. Where you get that kind of the very blue, like the deep blue coloring.
Okay.
Yes, anger is red. Bodies turn blue when they're dead for long enough. Is Willow a ghost? Maybe. I have yet to actually meet her.
You know, it could also be the light that is shining on me, and it's a very bluish fluorescent light. So
and I can kind of read through after interacting in comments for a while. I kind of get an idea. Carl feels very yellow to me, which is curiosity. Tavia, I'm not sure about you. You seem like you want to educate on the aspects you do understand, but also curious about others' opinions on the ones you don't. Which is good. It's very good. So a mixture of concern and curiosity. Deb is both, I think the top and bottom of paranormal is what we experience. Just because we feel doesn't mean we absolutely know. That's why we do Willow and Harlequin. Exactly. It's different for everyone, so you have to kind of work it out, which is why I say color theory works for some people, but there is no real set meaning. Even the ones I do, I like a good discussion, especially in topics that aren't typically shown off in live stream. Paranormal simply doesn't sell on live streams, so it is rare to see it up. Yes, that's very true. I will say, if you want to talk mostly about paranormal, you can follow The Gentleman Psychic, which is my wonderful friend Richard Lyle Lillard, or you can follow Willow's show that is going to be airing in August, Cryptic Crunch.
I like to go against the grain when it comes to my shows because I love to delve into these kind of situations of trying to figure out people. I like delving into the world of mental health. It's something that I'm struggling with myself, with my anxiety, and when it comes to the paranormal, I want to understand what the situations that I was in.
Carl has heard my ancestor calling his name in my voice, but he doesn't admit that's what happened. And sometimes it is harder for people to believe, and that's okay. Everyone's experience. So we're not following the psychology color theory then, because yellow is typically joy or excitement. No, because the way I do it, I relate the color that I can't stop thinking about to the emotion that I feel, because it's going to register different to everyone. Psychological color theory is what that is, the physical effect that color has when you view it for a long period of time. Like red is hunger, joy is excitement. That is why McDonald's, Wendy's, they're usually red and yellow, because that's kind of the place the logo will get you to. It makes you think about food. And thank you so much, Carl. Retired psychologist who used to believe but not now. And there are a lot of different things where, like I told you, I do a lot of seem adept at cold reading. Yes, I read better when I cold read, simply because my experiences with that person in my everyday life doesn't then color that reading. My personal opinions don't change what I see. I read better when it's a cold reading.
Mm-hmm. Carl says you're a good sport.
Carl. Hearing that and seeing McDonald's evolve toward gray style Yes, it is. If anyone watched Fairly Odd Parents growing up, it's like when the Pixel Pixies took over and everything just got business and boring. It makes me so sad. Like, my colorful.
I tried watching that show with the kids that I was babysitting for, and there was one time where it made a huge sexual joke, and I'm just like, am I the only one in this room who got that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, they do that so much. And thank you so much, Deb. That is absolutely wonderful. I don't know what emotion you generally attach to that, because like I said, it's different for everyone. But white is more often than not a very positive, comforting color. So thank you so much. It's definitely not purity, and Willow can confirm that. The number of things I have done. I have not, Tadia. I am an anime fan, but I've gotten sucked into several different TV shows, and it's been a while since I've picked up any anime. God damn it, now all I can think about is there's a McDonald's down the road from me. Now I'm hungry. This is how they do it, guys. Now I'm hungry.
It all connects to food eventually. Well, okay, I could probably hear both mine and your stomachs growling. I think that this is a perfect time to step away. So
guys, go ahead and give me a follow on Harlequin Arts Cosplay, as well as the Haunted Harlequin. I'm also available for readings. You can either email me or set up through my website. I am going to offer both virtual and in-person readings. However, I still have yet to post the listing in my store and in my appointment bookings. So if it's not there, just email me.
And you can find her on Facebook.
Yeah, right there. Right there.
And you have a convention coming up again.
Several, yes. I'm going to be hosting Tampa Bay Comic-Con's costume contest at the very end of this month, the 30th to the 1st of August. From the 12th to the 15th of August, I'm going to be at MegaCon Orlando. You can then find me September 24th, 26th in Bradenton at Suncoast Fan Fest, and at Phantasm October 1st to 3rd.
And if okay, let's take that off the ticker.
Of course, Donna. Thank you so much for participating. We love it when people can comment and can add to the show, so it's not just us talking to ourselves.
There will be more, I promise you.
I am more than happy to come back at any point in time.
So yeah, if you're in the Florida area and you want to see her at Suncoast Fan Fest, you guys can get your tickets. It's in August, so you can get 10% off if you use the promo code Hangin21. I need to get my budding gear so that I can travel to the States and see my friends.
Message me before you book anything, because I can find a way to get you into Universal Studios. I have friends that like it when I bake for them. But sometimes those comp passes are blacked out.
Okay.
So just double check so we can see what we can put on the agenda.
Well, I need to get a passport going, so
I get mine expired. I need to renew mine before I can do anything. Things we can talk about next time on the Paranormal Show. Oh my goodness, Deb, you're in the UK. It is. Oh my lord. Get some rest, my darling. We could talk about next time the Island of the Dolls, as well as Guadalajara.
Yes.
I can bring my friend Ada on for that if you'd like. She is a practicing witch who lives in Mexico City, near Xochimilco, and she's the one who wants to take me to Guadalajara. Guadalajara is a city with a high enough salt content in the earth that bodies mummify.
Oh,
They have
that's
a mummy
interesting.
museum, including the body of a 200-something-year-old witch that the church deemed dangerous enough to surround with an iron cage and crosses.
Okay, I remember hearing about or like reading up on that. That yes, definitely we'll want to talk. I need to talk more with you. So guys, I am the Hanging with Web program director. I'm the program director of this monster. So yeah, you guys can like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, Twitter. We're everywhere. I'm the social media socialite. You can find me everywhere. Instagram, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube. Yeah, so keep your eyes peeled. This video will describe everything.
I'm GW Pomager.
I'm Dina Marie.
I'm Sage Ia.
I'm Thomas Carter Rochester.
Hey, I'm David Thompson.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Mia.
Hi, I'm Mark.
Hey there, this is Dave Adams.
Hi, I'm Rosemary Rose.
Jerome Conner here.
Hey guys, it's Josh Bauer.
It's Willow Schuyler.
I'm Cosplay Michael.
I'm Brava.
It's your boy Country.
I'm Ryan Permison.
And I'd like to ask you guys, please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please subscribe.
Please, please, please
subscribe.
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 Please subscribe to HWWS
Web TV.
Great bunch of people.
And don't forget to smash the bell.
Ring that bell.
Smash that bell.
Hit that bell.
Hit the bell to be notified.
Hit the bell to get notified of new shows
and videos. You're going to want to do that, so do that soon.
So we can cross that 20,000 mark.
And get us to 100,000 subscribers.
To 1 million, and 10 million, and 100 million.
On HWWS.
Web TV.
You'll really like it. I guarantee it.
Thank you.
We also need to promote your Live It.
Yes, so I don't do as much on Live It anymore. I do have some life stuff going on, but you can find me on the new streaming app Live It, Livit, at Harlequin_arts, same as my Instagram. If you go to my website, there should also be a link to Live It. If you have not downloaded Live It, please download it from the link in my website. It is a referral code. So if you download it from that link and watch a stream for 10 minutes, I get paid. So that will directly support me and help me keep creating the content that I do.
And even if you can't really pay attention to the stream much, just turn it on and
pay attention. Just let your account sit there for 10 minutes.
Which I have done.
I've done that so much.
I believe in supporting my friends.
I'm going to pop on Live It for a bit because Enigma it's his birthday today and he's doing a birthday.
Oh, okay. So yes, let's end this broadcast and let's go say hi to your friend.
Well, let's go wish Enigma a happy birthday. He is turning 27, and I've heard from everyone that that's the year that your body starts hurting. So I'm very excited to see what shit I can give him this year.
For me, I think it was before that, but yes.
Have a wonderful night, guys.